If there's one theme in the stories of Star Citizen, it's that no matter what, conflict is inevitable. Be it the best of times or the worst of times, conflict will always be at the heart of the story of humanity. So it is with this tale of two planets, two destinies for mankind. This is Galactic Historian. The Earth-Terra conflict. Welcome to Galactic Historian. This is a series of videos and broadcasts where I cover the lore of sci-fi and space games and other content. As I was researching for future episodes on the lore of Star Citizen, the developers released an article on the history of a controversial initiative proposed after the fall of the Mezzers. This lore post answered a lot of questions people had about why the UEE, a structure built by a mass-murdering dictatorial fascist regime, was still in place. I had covered this topic last year with an old historical question segment, which turned out to be mostly right. What's important to note is that it took not just the repressed masses to overthrow the Mezzers, but an alliance of senators, generals, and rebels to bring down this dynasty. You see, it is these people who benefit from the UEE and its structure, modified to be more democratic in nature. In fact, the UEE is more or less the same type of government as the democratic UPE, which preceded it, but with more structure and much more efficient. This is why rebels and outlaws are still active, hundreds of years after the fall of the Mezzers. They did not see the change they wanted in the government. So, in reality, the government is only slightly different, and control shifted from a solitary leader to the powerful citizen elite that controls the Senate. The article also built upon the conflict, which has been silently tearing humanity apart for the better part of 400 years. This conflict is set to be a pivotal part in the overarching story of Star Citizen, and may even play a role in the Squadron 42 series of games. With that in mind, let's look into what this conflict is, where it came from, and how it has, and continues to, shape the fate of humanity. Earth has always been the center of human space. As humans settled the Sol system, terraformed Mars, and pressed into the outer planets like Jupiter and Saturn, the seat of human power was always Earth. Even as the first jump points were charted and new systems opened up for us to explore, Earth remained at the core of humanity. As the rapid expansion of humanity began to become too chaotic for the governments of the Sol system to handle, it was Earth where these nations decided to form the first species-wide government. The creation of the United Nations of Earth in 2380 set the tone for where power would be in the future. Even as Earth began to empty out, as more and more systems were colonized, offering better opportunities for those who sought them, Earth remained the nexus of political and economic power. When cries came from the other planets for a more equal representation, the reformed government was named the United Planets of Earth. Despite its power being diluted, the center of human experience remained Earth. However, this is no longer the unbridled truth, and as Earth has aged, it's become a monument to the past. Other systems are now becoming powers in their own right, specifically the third planet around a distant star called Terra Nova. The Terra system was first discovered in 2516. That's when the first expedition arrived to chart and analyze the worlds and moons. This venture was run by one of the most famous explorers of the UNE, Wei Yin Song. His scans of the third planet from the star revealed a lush, verdant world, oxygen-rich and teeming with life. It was described as looking like a young Earth. This find was groundbreaking because not only had they found a paradise world, but a paradise world which was in the nexus of jump points, with 7 total found in the system thus far, 3 of which are large ones. This was such an amazing find that 9 colony ships set out to stake their claims before the expedition had even finished. Over the years, Terra 3, now known as just Terra, has become a hub of trade and culture. Its location near so many jump points has enticed many large companies to move their headquarters there. For instance, it's the headquarters for Bering, who built its groundbreaking R&D lab on the planet. Anvil Aerospace calls the Terran city of Nova Kiev home. Even New Austin has become known as Origin Town for how much the luxury ship manufacturer has influenced the culture. This booming of trade has given rise to dozens of cities on the planet over the last 400 years. It has also allowed Terran culture and fashion to thrive, influencing everything from clothing lines to the passage of time itself. All of this influence has also made the planet a powerhouse in politics. It should be easy to see how Earth is considered part of the old world and Terra seen as the new hotness for humanity. This dynamic of old versus new is best summed up by a former Terran senator when she said,
"If you want to see where humanity's been, you visit Sol. If you want to see where it's going, you visit Terra." Senator Lenara Royce.
This split is even reflected in the political parties of the Empire, with the Transitionalists being formed expressly to move the seat of power to Terra. Not only do they want to move the capital, but they're also a more progressive and radical liberal party, advocating for the people and to reform the government away from its dictatorial roots. This is in stark contrast from the centralists' demand that Earth remain the center of power. Their values reflect the old, keeping the status quo and maintaining the government as it is. It is this struggle which forms the central core of the conflict between Earth and Terra, the future direction of humanity itself. Oh, thank God you picked up. Just reminding you to hit that like button if you would like what you see so far, and to subscribe for more Star Citizen lore videos. And if you want to know when these exactly come out, hit that little bell icon. Are you still here? Well, if you are, spare a few creds for an old teacher. For as little as $5 a month, you can support us on Patreon to help videos like these come to life. I think I took up enough of your time. Let's get back to the video. While tensions have always been present, the current source of those tensions can be traced to the rise of the Mezzers. Just as Terra was starting to become the center of commerce and power of humanity, the old UPE was taken over by the dictatorial Ivor Mezzer, creating the United Empire of Earth. Mezzer cared little for politics as usual, seeking out and seizing total power and giving that power out to those only loyal to him and his cause. This left the merchants and the artisans of Terra on the outside of this new order, causing much more friction than normal. Often, this frustration would come to the surface in the form of senators from Terra being vocal in their disapproval of the new Imperator and his plans. In response, many members of Terran society were arrested and accused of aiding alien governments. This resentment built up on both sides, like a pressure cooker ready to explode. That moment came on March 12, 2638, when the governor of Terra, Asan Kiernan, stated his intent to offer a referendum vote on independence for Terra and other systems from the UEE control. Citing the xenophobia of the Mezzers, he declared that the Banu and the Xi'an were
people like us. Their culture may be different. Their motivations may be different. But they are just trying to live in safety. The Imperator is happy to keep them at a distance through the sights of weapons. But I don't believe we can continue on this path. In short, I believe that Earth is increasingly disconnected from the realities of today, that it is causing political and social instability in all systems. This is not a call to arms or invitation for conflict. All I'm asking is to open a dialogue. Asan Kieran, Terran Governor.
Putting his faith in his people, he proposed a referendum in May of that year. And it failed spectacularly. What followed was months of scandal, as accusation after accusation was leveled at the governor. From him having an affair, being a drug addict, harboring corruption, to even allegations of him being involved with a Xi'an espionage plot. As a result, in his next election, he was run out of office, disappearing shortly afterwards. Months later, the Advocacy, the secret police of the Imperator, claimed to have uncovered a Xi'an spy network and arrested many of the government and corporate figures of Terra, citing that former Governor Kiernan was involved. What is likely is the Mezzers tampered with the referendum, as well as his own election, using the advocacy as a means to sow discontent and politically destroy Asan Kiernan to make an example of him. Whatever the case, this did manage to release the tensions for a while. However, eventually, the Terran flames of rebellion would rise once more. As the years went on, the political and economic leaders of Terra secretly were reaching out for help from an unlikely ally, the Xi'an Empire. They tried to negotiate a settlement and end to the Cold War, which the Mezzers were using as an excuse to maintain their rule. Their negotiations bore fruit on May 29, 2789, when Terran Senator Terence Akiri reported he had signed a peace treaty with the Emperor of the Xi'an herself. He brought it before the Senate, who approved of the treaty. Finally, all that stood in the way of its passage was Imperator Linton Mezzer, Mezzer XI, who promptly shot it down. While thwarted, it was a prime example of Terra trying to control the political narrative of humanity. In fact, Linton Mezzer's veto may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. 3 years later, a rebellion, consisting of members of all strata of society and many systems, removed the last Mezzer, installing a senator who was key to the revolt, Aaron Toy, as the new Imperator. Aaron Toy may have not been a Terran, but she certainly sided with their beliefs. Having been part of the insurrection and acting as part of the coup, she was not afraid to put herself in the line of fire to do the right thing. The right thing she believed in was a kinder and gentler humanity, a future that was more Terra than Earth. As she attempted to reform the old system and cobble together support for a post-Mezzer UEE, she was secretly backing what would become known as the Governance Modernization Act, or GMA. The GMA was not a super radical change to the government. It kept much of the existing framework in place, but would shift the seat of power to Terra and change the name to the Democratic Stellar Union. Naturally, those who supported Earth were enraged by this proposal. The corporations of Earth pull strings to try to kill the bill, fearing their loss of position and place if the much more economically viable Terra were to get the seat of power. Protest against the GMA broke out on Earth and many other systems. They feared that this drastic change would stress the already weakened economy to the point of collapse. As the debate raged on, a pro-GMA rally on Bremen escalated into violence. Fearing humanity might rip itself apart and descend into civil war, Toy called for a final vote by the Senate. On April 30th, 2793, the Senate voted on the GMA. The military was put on high alert for fear of violence, and as historian Ariel Rutt wrote, it was the day the Empire held its collective breath. Finally, the votes were announced. The GMA had failed to pass by 3 votes. Though defeated, the closeness of the vote spurred the creation of the modern Transitionalist Party. Terra remains in the UEE, but it is becoming clear that Earth needs Terra more than Terra needs Earth. Sometime soon, there will be a reckoning. When that day comes, it may be up to citizens like you to determine who will come out on top. I hope you enjoyed this look into the conflict between Terra and Earth. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'm always looking for new ideas of what to cover next, so let me know what you think. And until next time, remember, ex Historia ad Astra.